Welcome. In this edition of Down to Earth, we will talk about some of the important concepts mainly related to water. So, rainwater harvesting is one of those. One of the villages in Maharashtra, which was previously a tribal village, is now a dry tribal village, is now cultivating flowers. The idea has been brought into light only with the technology of rainwater harvesting. The local rivulets have been brought in, and rainwater storage has been done. Now, this could be used during the lean months, specifically the winter months, where the cultivation of flowers can continue and people can make a sustainable earning from 5,000 to 8,000 a day. Now, the next is a official report brought by NSSO, the National Sample Survey Office, which talks about the household consumption expenditure survey from the period of August 2022 to July 2023. And this talks about the per capita consumption is rupees 3,773 for rural areas, 6,459 for urban areas, calculated on the current price. Now, this equates to a daily expenditure of 126 rupees in rural area and 215 rupees in the urban area. Now, this includes the various expenses which relate to child care, food, healthcare, education, and so on. The next is this survey actually evaluates the income poverty level, and there has been assessments which have been previously given by Niti Aayog and others. The idea is to take into account the personal evaluation, which is now considered that the expenditure data, the poverty rates are now below 10%, right? So the report actually concludes the adjustment of the poverty line from 32 per day to 60 per day to accommodate the inflation. So there has been a change in the poverty line estimations as well. So again, an important aspect. Now, the next is the various environmental crimes. The state of environmental report being brought by Center for Science and Environment in 2024 talks about the impact that has been seen for the environment and its impact onto the crime generation. So we have seen that there has been nearly 3,200 lives which are lost, 2 million hectares of cropland which is destroyed, and a series of extreme weather events which are seen. The temperature has been rising by 1.4 degrees Celsius to the pre-industrial level. Our idea was to let it below 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees, but still we are struggling with the same. Now, with the reducing land and uneven or erratic rainfall patterns, we have seen the agriculture has suffered, and as a result farmer suicides have increased. So those are the environment related crimes that we talk about here. Now, another issues that we would focus deal with the melting of the glaciers, the plastic pollution, climate change, and so on. In the field of wildlife conservation, large cats is another important idea. We have been bringing in and talking about the conservation of large cats. India has a population which is nearly 1.4 billion and has worked successfully with the conservation of the wildlife, specifically leopards, tigers, lions, and now cheetahs from Africa. So those and how the local community can benefit from the efforts of wildlife conservation, development of the sanctuaries, development of the parks in those areas could be one such way. The next is the glaciers are now melting at a rapid rate. There has been glacier retreat and formation of vulnerable lakes which are seen. The mitigation involves two strategies that we can see. First is we can lower the level of the lake. That could be one of the ways to mitigate the risk of glacial melting, and the other is early warning systems that could be devised to actually mitigate the issue. The next important aspect that we focus on is plastic pollution, but along with plastic pollution, even in the marine areas, we have seen that the litter has increased, and 60 to 70% of the total litter constitutes plastic. There has been nearly 2 to 3 kilometers of heavily polluted zone along the cleaner beach which is found even in the east as well as the west coast. Also, over the years, we have seen that there is a phenomena of El Nino and La Nina, which we have expressed and explained separately in one of the other lectures, so you can just browse the channel for more information on it. But what is important is when the traditional El Nino patterns are highlighted, they actually have an impact on the atmosphere, and global warming has been linked to it with along with the other environmental phenomena. The next is UN Assembly. The 6th UN Assembly recognizes global economic crisis. Now this talks about not only the climate crisis but associated issues, for example the decline of biodiversity, increase of pollution, and extension of the period through which we have witnessed a warmer event. The next is the resolutions to combat desertification and land degradation. It has been seen in the regions of Saudi Arabia. Now Saudi Arabia is talking about a land degradation neutrality and the idea to improve drought resilience. There have been various issues which address the hazardous pesticides. Now these are sponsored by the programs have been sponsored by Ethiopia. The program to combat the dust storms have been proposed by Iran. So various countries coming together advocating the need and the urgency to bring in developments in the same way. The next is the Assembly has passed 14 resolutions specifically to end the plastic pollution. India has brought an end to the single-use plastic. Similarly, other nations are working in the same direction. There have been representatives from Mexico, Colombia, Switzerland, Senegal, and they have been talking about curbing the issues related to the pollution caused by plastics. The next is forests in India. Now over the 30 years, Supreme Court ruling has been using dictionary definitions to define forest. However, India is struggling with accurately delineating the areas of forest. So the court has instructed all the union territories and states to actually have the total forested area using the dictionary definition of the forest, and that has been given in one of the verdicts of Govardhan Man versus the Union of India case in 1969. However, we have been talking about bringing in the petitioners and the claims, and so far we say only 27% of the total area is forested, of which we believe that 1/3 of the area land cover, that is 33% of the land cover, should be actually forested. So there have been various legitimate diversions which have been made and the ideas have been taken into account. Even the section 1A of the act talks about the officially declared and designated forest under the Indian Forest Act 1927, and this has been further revamped under the 80 Act and the 1996 amendment. Now there have been series of years where no action has been taken, even after the fact that deforestation has acutely been seen in certain areas. There have been no specific developments which have been seen. So it has become a real cause of concern to identify, demarcate and declare even a reserve forest as well as a natural forest. Now the next is the diverted forest lands. Now Mathiketan is one of the national parks. It was influenced or we could say being influenced by the political issues, it was actually encroached. Now there has been an allocation of elephant corridor to Chinnakal, and that is to the landless community there. Despite of numerous human elephant conflicts which have been rising, there have been such decisions which have been taken off and on. The next important aspect is hunting of the bird. Now very important aspect, when a wetland site is being declared under Ramsar Convention, that site comes into a legal protection. However, if the site is not under a legal protection, it is open to hunting activities. The same example we can see from the Narkara wetland in Jammu Kashmir. Since it's not registered under the wetlands of the Ramsar Convention, this is outside the ambit of the legal provisions, we could say, and therefore we can say significant number of bird hunting activities, especially the migratory birds, are hunted in these areas. So now what is important is, since the Ramsar Wetland Convention has come, a 24/7 monitoring system has been brought and an integrated management action plan has been brought into account. Kashmir has nearly 12,000 wetlands of sizable area, and these are the areas where numerous migratory birds come in, but there is a heavy cost that they have to bear, since there is a lot of poaching and hunting activity which is usually seen. For example, in the regions of Shopian, there has been numerous hunting activities which are seen. The next is the prevalence of leprosy disease. Now, Bowman Pukar in the regions of Sundarban was devastated by the cyclone Amphan. Now this led to severe reduction in the nutritional intake of the people, and there were semi-permanent dwellings of bamboo and mud which suffered damages, and there was encroachment of saline water and polluted areas into the region. Now this has been one of the reasons which we could say has led to destructions of the agricultural activities in the region, and the people who have been living here have been experiencing extreme protein energy malnutrition, poor sanitation and inadequate housing. Some of the cases we have seen have been identified of leprosy. The symptoms actually talked about extreme muscle weakness and chronic fatigue. Now the person was diagnosed of leprosy back in 2003 and then twice in 2011. So there have been similar narratives prevalent in the regions of Sundarban because of the higher leprosy, extreme climate conditions and socioeconomic vulnerability. Several districts have seen a huge burden on the economy as well as on the productivity in the region. Now the risk patterns globally, we say India accounts for nearly 55% of the total leprosy cases worldwide, of which 7 of the state contributes maximum, which is Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. There have been climate vulnerability assessment report which has brought that certain areas which are susceptible to climate change are the areas where the prevalence of leprosy is extremely high. There has been a leprosy mission trust of India which talks about high endemic areas of leprosy and neglected tropical diseases, for example lymphatic filariasis, which is the swelling of the legs, arms and the genital areas. Now the study which has been released by Niti Aayog evaluates the issues related to health, education, living standards and poor nutritional intake. It is believed that more than 50% of the Bihar population lives in multi-dimensional poverty. Even in the northern states, the Sitamar, Sopal and Kishanganj, the prevalence of leprosy is very high, nearly 2.3 per thousand population, which is extremely higher than the national average of 0.5. Also, we have seen certain individuals in certain districts which are living in multidimensional poverty, and they are also facing the neglected tropical diseases along with the issues of leprosy. Even in the regions of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, we have seen higher correlation with these issues. Higher prevalence has been seen in Shravasti and Bharej district, and this has increased the out-of-pocket expenditure to nearly 72%, and overall health spending of the state has surpassed the national average by national average of 48%. So that's again a long leap for reformations in healthcare system as well as improvement in the socio-economic living standards of the region. There has been a eradication program, the National Leprosy Eradication Program, with 2 specific goals targeted for 2027, and this talks about zero occurrence of the new child case in the 5 consecutive years and eliminating the leprosy with no new case for at least 3 consecutive years. So these 2 are the goals which have been set up for 2027, which are really on the very high priorities, we could say, right? The next is water and purification of water, the related technologies. So one is RO, that is reverse osmosis, one of the common techniques that we hear these days, and this is gaining popularity. However, there are certain plants which certain areas where the suspended deposits are very, very less, and in those cases there is a need that these ROs are to be replaced by some other technology because those micronutrients should be present with the water. The next is the purification system. There is a yellow tint in the water which shows the contamination either due to bacteria or because of iron, and this can be remedied by actually having the simple concept of boiling the water. Also, the National Green Tribunal has issued a notification that where the total dissolved solutes are less than 500, in those cases RO systems cannot be used, and wherever ROs are permitted, the National Green Tribunal actually has a requirement of more than 60% of the recovery of the water. Now there are various other methods that could be used. For example, as you can see, one is the boiling. This is the simplest way. The next is candle filter, that cleans the drinking water of the larger sediments where the sediments get collected, right? So it is basically candles with a pores of 3 microns, so larger size particles get removed there. Activated carbon filter, which is usually seen with your RO systems. So here the chlorine, pesticides and other organic matter from the water is removed. Filtration and chlorination is another such technique to kill bacteria. UV purification and RO is another common technique. So UV purification talks about removing the sediments and disease causing microbes. RO actually removes the sediments and the essential minerals, but how much essential minerals are to be removed, the TDS level has to be set accordingly. The next is multi-stage purification system. Now this system talks about various technologies being brought together, which could be the filter, the pre-carbon, the post-carbon filter, the RO membrane, and then the ultrafiltration being brought together in a single setup, right? So there has been a significant increase in the RO technology. The RO technology, the market share has gone up to 37%. A lot of households are now using RO as one of the purification systems. The next is the latest norms which is allowable is the TDS limit of 500 milligrams per liter. However, if there is absence of alternative water source, the TDS limits permissible is 2000 milligrams per liter. So those are the levels. Now there are controllers which are known as modulators and mineral infused cartridges which are known as mineralizers, which are used for commercial and residential machines, right? Now the purity of the taste or health is again important. So water contains certain essential minerals, for example magnesium, which is important for muscle development, heart functioning, enzyme production. Along with that, sodium, potassium, copper, iron and zinc are present in trace amount, but groundwater does have harmful elements, for example fluorides, heavy elements like arsenic, chromium, lead, that need to be filtered out, and if not, they can have a significant impact on heart, on liver and kidney, and can have increased risk of cancer like diseases, right? So those are some of the things that have been taken into account, and for this there have been tests which are conducted on 3 brands of RO water. This test was done by National Institute of Hydrology in Roorkee, and then the total dissolved solids were less than 50 milligrams per liter in some of those, which showed a significant reduced level of calcium and magnesium in the water. There have been studies which have been talking about the condition of dead water, which is suitable for batteries but not suitable for drinking, because the TDS level is extremely low, only 18 to 25. So RO industry has been talking about new standard permits which talks about addition of mineral in the RO systems, which can produce nearly 50 liters per hour of RO, clean water, right? So here we have the list of the various substances, the acceptable limits and the permissible limits. Now this list is really important. So for example, iron, what is the acceptable limit? Similarly, we have fluoride, the acceptable and the permissible limits that you must know. The similar one is for arsenic, which is again important. So total arsenic levels, the acceptable levels and the permissible levels. So these are some of the lists. The values are highly important even for your UGC NET paper 1 examination. These questions are commonly asked. The next is acute water shortage being seen in the Bangalore, where the municipality is now talking about to the IT firms to move nearly 15 lakh workers who are working with IT companies on a work from home basis to actually curb the crisis. The water issue has significantly burgeoned up in the recent years. Also, there has been a prolonged snowfall even in the month of March in the regions of Himachal Pradesh, and the most of them had been witnessed in Lahul Spiti area, where an unusually nearly 530% more snowfall has been seen as compared to the previous years. Also, there has been debates regarding the mining operations in the eco-sensitive areas, and at least the 1 kilometer radius of the protected forest should be conserved and taken into consideration. So another important is the coral bleaching, which has been seen in the Great Barrier Reefs and the implications for the same. The James Webb Telescope, which has detected the most ancient inactive galaxy, and that is actually observed with a star formation which is nearly 13 billion years ago. So those are some of the important things that we have talked about in this down to earth. The basic idea was water management, water purification systems, and rainwater harvesting. We'll be discussing Yojana, Kurukshetra, and down to earth on regular basis every month towards the month end. The details on these would be coming, and the handouts would be available on Examrace current affairs. So stay tuned. Have a wonderful day ahead.